Chapter 2, 146, Exposed. Translator. Chibi General Editor. Chibi General. The bloody night passed and the morning sun shone upon the ruined camp. The atmosphere was solemn as everyone cleaned up the battlefield and packed their goods, setting off with a heavy heart. However, the wolf pack attack this time was only the beginning. Few days later, they were attacked again by gray wolf packs. The scale of the attack this time was even larger than the previous time, but the caravan had taken sufficient precautions and were able to limit their losses to less than the previous time. They chased away this pack of gray wolves. However, they had yet to regain their breaths when 3 days later they were attacked by lightning wolf packs. The pack contained 3 frenzied lightning wolves and 9 bold lightning wolves. 15 goo masters were killed while fighting them. The battle ended with wolf corpses all around the ground, and a wounded frenzy lightning wolf escaped with the remaining injured wolves. There were many goo masters who chased them for revenge, but couldn't catch up to them, and they didn't dare to enter deep into Shaoyue Mountain. They could only stare fixedly at the retreating wolf packs. The attack this time made the caravan's leader and vice leaders realize the danger they were in. On that very evening, they decided to speed up and leave Shaoyue Mountain as quickly as possible. Even so, for the next 15 days, they were met with frequent attacks by the wolf packs. Gray wolves, lightning wolves, snow wolves, two-headed wolves, and even blood-fang wolves. Everyone in the caravan let out a breath of relief after they got out of Shaoyue Mountain. The caravan's next few days passed peacefully and smoothly until they entered Baihu Mountain and were attacked by beast groups again. This time it was old turtle carapace apes. These white apes were enormous. With a carapace armor on their back, the carapace armor was covered with turtle shell patterns. There weren't many casualties from the attacks of these ape groups, but the huge damage to the goods caused many to feel heartache. Fang Yuan's goods also met with hardship. The dozen carts of goods he had was decreased to less than half. The morale in caravan fell greatly. These people were merchants trying their best to earn money. However, these losses made this trip worthless to them. We have made a fruitless trip. I checked my accounts yesterday. My earnings amounted to less than 2,000 primeval stones. My situation is even worse. I have already lost 30% of the goods. Even if it is worse, can it be as worse as the Zhang clans? They have already lost most of their goods. Sigh. If I had known earlier, I would have just curled up in the clan. Why would I bother to take risk and only earn this much? The caravan moved in such an atmosphere. 5 days later, they were attacked by a group of white tigers. There were losses again. 7 days later, a group of flame tigers ambushed them. Fire spread over the camp, and a large amount of goods were burned down. The morale had reached an all-time low. Many of the merchants had lost all their investment. 10 days later, when they were about to cheer as they left the border of the Baihu mountain region, a Biao one appeared. 5 tigers and 1 Biao. A Biao was a tiger that had grown wings and was at least 1,000 beast king. And because it had the ability to fly, it was even more troublesome. Some vice leaders of the caravan lost their lives while resisting this Biao. The Biao tailed the caravan for almost 100 miles, constantly harassing them. Finally, the caravan higher-ups decided to make minor sacrifices, quickly deciding to give up close to 100 servants. Most of these servants were injured or crippled. They rained curses and cried for their lives, but could do nothing to change their fate. Finally, the Biao had its fill and left, satisfied. The caravan was only able to rest properly after leaving the Baihu mountain far behind. The leaders of each clans didn't stint on rewards, gradually raising the morale. The scale of the caravan was now already thinned by half of their original size. But after going through this cruel elimination and sharpening, the caravan now showed signs of an elite group. I have been a traveling merchant for so many years, and this was the most challenging of them all. Who knows what possessed these wild beasts attacking so frequently? After this trip ends, I will retire and enjoy my life. No matter what, the risk of this trade route needs to be reevaluated. The main reason is still because these great mountains don't have any human inhabitations. With no clans and garrisons to purge these beasts, they have grown without check. Some sighed, some were downhearted, whereas some still retained some hope. However, the caravan seemed to be jinxed. On the road ahead, they were not only attacked by all kinds of beast groups, but also by many swarms of insects and wild goo worms. The size of the caravan was decreasing continuously. The merchants no longer cared about profits and loss. They were starting to sense their lives were on the line. They even abandoned a lot of goods willingly to speed up their traveling speed. The setting sun dyed the clouds in blood red. The caravan was crossing a mountain woods in silence. Everyone was exhausted and numb, their morale very low. Many had bandages on their body, covering light and heavy injuries. They moved step by step in the bumpy mountain passageway. It had rained yesterday, causing the mountain passage to be muddy and slippery. A handcart filled with goods got stuck in the mud. The ostrich that was dragging the cart raised its neck and made shrill, crackling noises before using all its strength to pull the cart, but to no avail. Right at this time, two hands came from behind the cart and lifted it, pulling the stuck wheel out of the mud pit. It was Fang Yuan. He casually clapped his hands. The thousands of kilos worth of goods didn't seem to be that heavy in his hands. However, although the cart broke away from the mud pit, its wheels were somehow jammed and didn't move. Bai Ningbing, who was at the side, bent down to take a look at the wheel. After being in caravan for so long, she had learned many things with her disguised identity and had already completely blended in. What is this? She rubbed the axle of the wheel, her eyes filled with doubt. There was some kind of stuff hidden in the axle of the wheel, and it was continuously grinded down into fine gray powder as the wheels moved. The fine powder was unnoticeable when they fell down to the ground. Bai Ningbing picked some of this powder and rubbed them with her fingers. The powder turned into grease. Ah, I put these oil powder in the wheels to lubricate them and make the handcart move more smoothly. Fang Yan walked over while taking out a cotton handkerchief from his pocket. He grabbed Bai Ningbing's hands and cleaned the grease off. After that, he crouched down and felt around the wheels. The wheels regained their mobility. Let's go. He wiped off the oil powder from his hands and patted Bai Ningbing's shoulder. The two continued to walk. Bai Ningbing's pace continued to become slower as the doubts in her heart intensified and formed into a dense fog that couldn't be dispelled. She sensed something was amiss. When did Fang Yuan get this oil powder? How come I had no idea? Was it since the beginning? Or at Wangjin Mountain? Or at Xiaoyu Mountain? Strange. He doesn't seem to give a damn about the caravan. He hasn't even frowned seeing such large losses to the caravan. But why would he care about oiling the handcart? Strange. Strange. Wait a second. Suddenly, a quick light seemed to flash past Bai Ningbing's mind. At that instant, her whole body shivered, and her pupils suddenly shrunk down to pin-sized. A possibility echoed out from deep within her mind. She stopped at the spot, her mind filled with shock. After a long while, the ostrich which had been walking beside her suddenly screeched and woke her up. Fang Yuan's figure was already far away now, gradually merging into the crowd in front. This guy! Bai Ningbing lowered her head, covering the cold light flashing past her blue eyes under the cover of the straw hat. Sun was slowly setting down in the west and the many stars began to appear in the sky. Yo! The caravan stopped near a beach. They had decided to camp here for the night. However, just when they were half finished with setting up the camp, a group of cold jade owlcats appeared in the vicinity. Beast group, it is the owl cat. Stop your work, make defensive formations. These damn animals, I just had my dinner. People cursed and ran, but with the previous bitter suffering and tempering, they soon formed three tight defensive lines. Cold jade. Owlcat's body was like that of a leopard's and was extremely quick. Its face, though, was similar to an owl. Its enormous eyes covered almost half of its face and shone with eerie green light in the dark. The Owlcat King gave a loud cry. The Owlcat groups charged toward the camp like a tide. Kill! The Goo Masters, who were in the front lines, shouted. Momentarily, all kinds of colors flashed. Fire blazed. Rocks and soils flew. Lightning rumbled. Countless owlcats collapsed, but more waves of owlcats rushed forth. Heavens, this is a large-scale cold jade owlcat groups, someone shouted. Ah, save! A part of the defensive lines couldn't resist the attacks anymore, and a goo master was pounced upon by three owlcats. His tragic screams stopped midway, flesh and blood splattered in the air. Quick, cover up that gap. Two goo masters were sent as reinforcements. However, it was of no use. The gap continued to increase, slowly destroying the whole defensive line. Retreat! Retreat! In the end, they had no choice but to retreat to second defensive line. Link the hand carts and carriages and pile up the goods into high walls. After the second defensive line, the third defensive line hurriedly set up a barricade. Many servants were busy moving the goods, their bodies soaked with sweat. No one could goof off at this time. Fang Yan was moving a large trunk when Bai Ningbing suddenly walked over and lifted a side of the trunk. On the surface, she seemed to be helping Fang Yuan, but actually she moved closer to Fang Yuan and whispered to his ears while gritting her teeth. You bastard, you attracted these cold jade owlcats, right? Fang Yuan looked surprised. Why do you say such a thing? Stop pretending. There was definitely something wrong with those powder. I don't believe a guy like you will kindly consider these minor details. Bai Ningbing whispered. Ha ha ha, you finally discovered it. Fang Yuan didn't deny. Bai Ningbing couldn't help gritting her teeth. All the frequent attacks the caravan suffered on the way was all due to Fang Yuan's contribution. The two lifted the wooden trunk and moved slowly. The people around them were all busy shouting and moving, their concentration all on the battlefield. Who could have the time to listen to Fang and Bai's whisperings? Why are you doing this? After a moment of silence, Bai Ningbing asked. Ha ha, Fang Yuan laughed. Guess. Immediately, Bai Ningbing felt a violent impulse to beat Fang Yuan up.